Welcome to the lecture for Chapter 5 on research. As we begin, I want you to think back to Chapter 1 when we discussed the RACE acronym as one approach to understanding how PR works. RACE stands for Research, Action, Communication, and Evaluation. Today we will discuss Chapter 5, which looks at the first part of the PR campaign, research. Research is the basic groundwork of any PR program. It involves the gathering and interpreting of information, and research is used in every phase of a communications program. Let's begin by outlining some key definitions for the chapter. The first term is research. Research is the controlled, objective, and systematic gathering of information for the purpose of describing and understanding. There are two standards used for research: validity and reliability. Validity is achieved when research measures what it purports to measure. For example, something is valid if it is accurate. If you weigh yourself on one scale and it says you weigh 150 pounds, and then you weigh yourself on 12 other scales that all say you weigh 150 pounds, then the weight is valid. The second term is reliability, and is achieved when very similar results are obtained when a study is repeated. For example, something is reliable if it is consistent. If you measure a piece of wood with a tape measure, that tape measure should yield the same measure each time the wood is measured. Any kind of assessment must be developed in a way that gives the researcher both valid and reliable information. Studies show that PR departments spend about 3 to 5% on research, but some experts say that number should be closer to 10%. Increasingly, executives are demanding accountability and proven results from PR campaigns. PR professionals as a whole, however, use research in the following ways: to achieve credibility with management, to define audiences and segment publics, to formulate strategy, to test messages, to help management keep in touch, to prevent crises, to monitor the competition, to sway public opinion, to generate publicity, and to measure success. There are 4 major research techniques. The first is primary research. Primary research uses new and original information that is generated through a research project and is directed to answer a specific question. The second type of research is secondary research, which is the analysis of data that was originally collected by someone else. The third is qualitative research, and this is research that relies on interpretation of text to probe attitudes and perceptions, assess penetration of messages, and to test the clarity and effectiveness of materials. Qualitative research is often subjective. The fourth kind of research is quantitative research. Quantitative research is characterized by the use of scientific sampling methods to find numerical results. Quantitative research is objective. Let's go a little deeper into each of these. We'll begin with secondary research. Secondary research is the analysis of data that was originally collected by someone else. The textbook offers 3 types of secondary research useful to a PR practitioner. The first is archival research, in which PR practitioners research organizational materials. These materials include policy statements, speeches by key executives, past employee newsletters, past PR and marketing reports, marketing statistics, and news clippings. These all can be used to help determine what messages are being sent to internal and external publics, as well as past PR campaign results. The second item in secondary research includes library and online databases. PR professionals use these to access reference books, academic journals, and trade publications. There are numerous databases available to PR practitioners. The amount and variety of articles and information available through these databases allows PR practitioners to be current and knowledgeable about their organization. The third item is the World Wide Web. Home pages, online search engines, specialized search engines, and members-only discussion groups provide forums for PR professionals to find information and discuss current events or trends in the field. The World Wide Web can also allow PR practitioners to analyze what customers or publics are talking about. For example, after the movie Blood Diamond was released, the diamond industry used monitoring software to track the types of searches about the source of diamonds. The World Wide Web allows PR professionals to assess what is on the minds of their publics. The next category of research is qualitative research, which is characterized as research that relies on the interpretation of texts to probe attitudes and perceptions, assess penetration of messages, and test the clarity and effectiveness of materials. The textbook offers 5 types of qualitative research pertinent to a PR practitioner. The first is content analysis, which is the systemic and objective counting or categorizing of information. In PR, content analysis is usually used to measure how much media coverage a company or news release is getting and what the content of that coverage is. The second type of research includes interviews. There are 2 types of interviews the textbook describes. The first are intercept interviews, also called convenience polls. In these, people are interviewed in public spaces and asked their opinion on something. For example, if you have ever been stopped by someone in the mall to answer a few questions, you have been asked to participate in an intercept interview. These are highly unscientific and unreliable, but give an idea of popular thinking. The second type are purposive interviews. These are more in-depth, and these interviews carefully select interviewees based on their expertise, influence, or leadership in the community. The third type of research is focus groups. Focus groups are an alternative to interviews and are used to help identify attitudes and motivations of certain publics. Focus groups can also be used to formulate or pre-test messages and strategies before launching a full campaign. Focus groups usually consist of 8 to 12 people who represent a key public. The fourth type is copy testing. Sometimes organizations don't communicate effectively because they release material that is written above the educational level of the target public. With copy testing, the materials are reviewed by individuals or small groups who represent the larger public that the materials would be distributed to. Based off of the findings of the copy testing, the material can be approved or edited. And finally, the textbook discusses ethnographic techniques. Ethnography research is based on an observation of a group or an individual. In PR, observing others can provide informal feedback about how often a message is viewed or the attitudes about a product or company. For example, people might indicate on a survey how often they wash their hands after using the restroom, but ethnographic research, actually watching people as they leave the restroom, can potentially provide different information on how often, or not often, people wash their hands. A third category of research is quantitative research. Quantitative research is the use of scientific sampling methods to find numerical results. There has been an increase in demand for research that provides hard numbers to give insight to PR personnel. Scientific sampling, however, is dependent on 2 factors: randomness to ensure that the subject pool is not biased, and a large number of participants to ensure the results can be generalized to the entire population. Let's begin with random sampling. Random sampling is required for polls and surveys to ensure representation. Results of a poll or survey are invalid if participants don't effectively represent all of the various types of members that can be in a public. For example, your research would not be random if you only stood outside the dining hall on campus to conduct it, because you would only be surveying people who ate at the dining hall and leaving out everyone who did not. You would have to conduct the survey at various locations on campus to ensure you were getting a random sampling of the student body. The second thing necessary to ensure accurate scientific sampling is sample size. Scientifically accepted survey polls 1,000 to 1,500 people to get an idea of what the general adult population is thinking. In PR, surveys usually interview a sample size of 250 to 500 people to assess attitudes and perceptions. Fewer numbers of participants means the surveys should be interpreted with caution due to a higher margin of error, but the surveys can point out if a corporation needs to act on something. If you choose to create a questionnaire, the textbook offers several tips when constructing one. First, you should carefully consider your wording. Some questions can be skewed by the wording that is used. There is a difference between asking, Do you support a jobs plan for the U.S. to reduce the current unemployment rate? And the question, do you support a $450 billion plan by the federal government to address unemployment? Second, you should avoid loaded questions. Don't use questions that use inflammatory language that elicit emotional responses rather than valid reactions. Third, you need to consider the timing and context. Surveys shouldn't be conducted if the organization is in the news or connected to a scandal. Fourth, the questionnaire should avoid the politically correct answer. Instead of posing questions that elicit correct responses, make questionnaires confidential and promise anonymity to those who participate. And finally, questionnaires should give a range of possible answers. Instead of just yes or no, create a range of responses from a great deal to none at all. Finally, the chapter offers 5 ways on how PR practitioners can reach respondents in order to conduct research. These involve mailed questionnaires, telephone surveys, personal interviews, omnibus or piggyback surveys, and web and email surveys. Each of these has their own pros and cons that PR professionals need to be aware of. All of these, however, can be effective ways to conduct research that can be used to prepare, execute, or evaluate PR campaigns. As the use of the internet has exploded, research methodologies in PR have extended to include this vital medium of communication. PR practitioners conduct research to make sense out of their publics on the web and in social media, so they know what people are saying and thinking. This form of research is known as digital analytics and includes 3 types: web analytics, social media monitoring, and social media participatory research. Web analytics is the most fully developed form of online research and provides information about how many visitors there are to a website and the number of page views, as well as any changes in the amount of web traffic after a campaign begins. Web analytics is a key way organizations and PR practitioners can compare themselves to their peers' presence online. The second form of digital analytics research is the use of social media monitoring tools. Social media analytics is the practice of gathering data from blogs and social media platforms. The most common form of this research is to mine customer sentiment to support marketing and customer service activities. For example, if research shows positive customer reactions to a new product launch, then this suggests the campaign is successful. And finally, the third form of digital analytics is the use of social media participatory research. Social media participatory research occurs when PR practitioners engage in online conversations with key audiences and influencers. Conducting this type of research includes a PR practitioner tweeting, pinning and viewing pins on Pinterest, watching and viewing YouTube or Vimeo videos, reading blogs, and monitoring Facebook. Today we discussed how research serves as a foundational part of a PR campaign. We began by discussing the difference between validity and reliability, how research is used in PR, and the differences in types of research used in secondary research, quantitative research, and qualitative research. We also looked at digital analytics for public relations, questionnaire construction, and how to reach participants. Thank you for listening to the lecture, and I hope this helps you better understand the important role research has in PR and the various ways it can be done.